See, now we got now we have the best show we had. We have two Jeffs here. We got Jeff Brantley and the Iceman here.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, don't take his drink. He's never going to come on my podcast again now.
So what do we got?
We're at the Red Community Fund dinner here. How you have a good time tonight?
I am having a good time. We just got finished with the hot stove and came up here. I heard this is where all the big wigs hang out, so I came up here.
Hey, I'm not bigwig. I'm just hanging out.
I got you.
I'm not a big wig either, but I tell you what, I don't mind hanging with the big wigs. That's my favorite thing to do.
So
good.
For you, growing up a Reds fan down in Mississippi and hearing about Reds opening day and all that stuff, what was the first time you got to experience Reds opening day, the parade, and everything like that? Was it as a player, a visiting player, or when was that?
As a player,
okay.
And you just don't quite grasp this whole environment as a player because you're so consumed with preparing for the game.
Right.
But once you step on the other side of the fence, especially as a broadcaster and as a fan, opening day here, and I've been to a lot of opening days in a lot of different cities, and nobody does it like Cincinnati.
It's a little different.
It is just absolutely
it's
incredible.
The energy and just exactly right. I mean, to come down here, I live down here at the Banks, so I've been down here about 3 years now and got to witness this, and it's just been incredible. And it's one of the things I look forward to every year. Hope for good weather and the parade, and it's just amazing.
Well, you would think that this would be a male-dominated environment because of all that's going on with baseball. If you're a lady and you want to get your hair done for opening day, and Lord knows they want to get their hair done, you got to make that reservation or that appointment about a year out because everybody wants to look good for opening day.
Exactly.
It's just the way it is here.
Exactly.
It really is.
So I've been wanting to ask you this. How did you become a Reds? Because you grew up a Reds fan.
I did.
How did you become a Reds fan?
Well, my dad and I grew up in Alabama, and I grew up in Hoover, and I used to listen to 700, and I would hear the baseball game.
Okay.
Now, once I got a little bit older, I realized the only way to keep 700 on the air was to be able to be in the car.
Okay.
And when it was 700 in Alabama back then it was a Spanish station. It was a Cuban station actually, all day long until 6 o'clock, which is 7 o'clock here.
Okay.
So at 6 o'clock, my dad and I would get in the car, and back in those days, you just didn't have stereos or the ability to have the phone, any of that, where you could actually listen and keep the signal. Otherwise, it would go in and out. But if you got in the car and you kept the car moving, the station stayed slick.
Just drive around circles.
Nope. We just backed up and pulled forward. Backed up and pulled forward.
That's awesome.
And I can tell you this, my mom was not real happy with us because a lot of times, especially as it got later in the season, we would eat dinner.
In the car?
In the car, just me and my dad, listening to Marty and Joe back and forth in the driveway. It was just that's what I grew up listening to. And what a great team, the Big Red Machine.
Oh, absolutely.
In those days.
Absolutely.
It really turned me into a baseball fan. But what it did is it made me want to be a broadcaster.
Yeah.
I mean, my heroes growing up were Mel Allen and listening to Keith Jackson and listening to Marty and Joe. Oh, yeah. And so I would pretend that I was those guys throwing the ball up against the house and had a little lineup that I would read out. And what it did is it strengthened my arm enough to where I became a baseball player and a big leaguer for about 14 years before I ever got to live my original dream.
Right.
So here I am.
Hey, pretty good life there. Did you ever think you'd actually be in the booth with Marty?
No. I never thought I would get a chance to broadcast.
Right.
Because I thought you had to go to some kind of specialized school and do all these different kind of things and learn about all the equipment. Let me tell you, brother, I don't know anything about those dials and cords over there.
Right.
The only thing I know about is what's happening on that field, and I do know that.
So Marty was on here earlier with me today, and he talked about your very first broadcast.
Oh, man. He killed me.
In spring training. He announced you and left.
Because he asked me when we were talking, and I called him first when I took the job. I said, before I took the job, I said, look, they've asked me to do this. Is that going to work with you? And he said, sure. He said, it'll be great. So we're going along and got the contract done. And then he calls me. He goes, "Have you been practicing your play-by-play?" and we're on the phone. I said, "Practicing? I don't need any practice." He goes, "Okay, great."
You were Allen Iverson before Allen Iverson. Practice.
He goes, "All right, I'll see you in Sarasota." So we roll up in there, and I get ready, and we're all sitting down, and we do the first inning. I'm thinking, this is – and I'd been at ESPN, I knew how to do the color part.
Right.
So when it came time for me to do play-by-play in the third inning, he introduces me and then takes his headset off, and he walks out of the booth. And I'm thinking, well, I guess I'm just going to have to do both. And I didn't think it was going to be that big a deal. Guys get on base, and I'm trying to describe how they got on base. Ball's hitting the right center field gap. The first action that I'd ever had as a play-by-play announcer.
Right.
And I'm talking about the guys are running around the bases, the ball's bouncing off the wall, and I'm sitting there talking about the guy was really inside the ball there. The ball kind of hung in the middle of the plate, and then all of a sudden I hear behind me, "Tell them where the ball is. Tell them where the ball is." And I'm thinking, oh, they're relaying the ball there. There's already been 2 runs scored. It was like, oh, man, you talking about speeding up on you in a hurry.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of like one of those innings when you're out there on the mound and you get 2 quick outs. The next thing you know, the bases are loaded and the game's on the line.
Right. It's not easy. Like I said, I try to get in the radio broadcast myself, and I practice, watch the games and trying to do it myself. It's not easy to do. And Marty made it look easy. And I enjoy listening to you and Tommy Thrall. You guys do a great job.
Well, the one thing that I have with Tommy, and the same that Marty and I had, is just that camaraderie and friendship, not only in the booth but outside of the booth, and that in itself makes you comfortable in the seat you sit in, and we're all very fortunate to have that, because that's not that way everywhere.
Right.
Well, I can tell you as a fan, I've been so happy to see you come as a broadcaster after your career, because your uncanny ability to analyze pitchers and just to talk about, how there are different strategies and maybe why they're having issues hitting the strike zone or things like that. And I just think you have the vision for that, because obviously, because of your professional pitcher, but it's just been so much fun to listen to and to watch. It gives me a new perspective.
Well, I appreciate that, because I really do try to make I guess the best way to say this is a word picture for those that are listening, because you can't always understand the give and take of the pitcher-hitter relationship or the pitcher-catcher relationship. Right. But that's where a lot of our action is focused on. Mm-hmm. And I think that getting into the head of the pitcher and getting into the head of the hitter is really what baseball is about.
Oh,
when
absolutely.
You get down to the nuts and bolts of it.
That's the nitty-gritty of it right there.
It is.
I mean, the fun part of it is I like listening to you talk about food. The ribs and Grater's ice cream.
That's when we're either winning by 12 or losing by 12.
Exactly.
Anyway, those are the funnest parts. But like I said, I really enjoy you guys doing it. There's Randy freaking. Anyway, Cowboy, I appreciate it. I don't want to keep you any longer. I know you just talked over there. I don't want to keep you any longer than I have to, but I appreciate you coming on, man.
No problem.
And
enjoyed it, man.
Good luck to the season. I can't wait. It's holiday
Me too,
tomorrow.
man.
Holiday tomorrow.
Let me just say this before I go. This is going to be really fun to watch.
Dude, I think so, too.
I'm just telling you.
Terry Francona's 10 extra wins, I think.
It's going to be fun.
I can't wait.
All right. Have a good night.
Take it easy. Thank you.